everybody to the Virtual Lacrosse Summit and the ABCs of box offense from Eddie Comeau, head coach of the Georgia Swarm. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Looking forward to it.
You coach one of the most fun teams for anybody to watch. You got so many incredible players. Before we get started, maybe just a quick word on how much fun it is to coach such a high level of players, including the Thompson brothers and gosh, Randy Stotts. I mean, it's guy after guy.
Yeah, our John Arlotta, our owner and general manager, has done a great job of putting together a lot of dynamic players, and we're very fortunate to have that group there. And the one real key thing with each of those guys you mentioned and all the other guys we have there is just they're very unselfish, and nobody cares if they get goals or they get points. They care about success, and that makes our job as coaches much easier. And coaching guys that are that dynamic, I learned a long time ago. I've coached some really high-level players in this league, and guys like Colin Doyle, John Grant, Casey Powell, to name a few. And those guys are very creative, and we always say a lot of those creative players are like artists. And when you have artists, the last thing you want to do is tell them what you want them to paint. When you have an artist, you let them paint, you give them the canvas, and you let them paint. And we really feel that's what we have in Georgia. We've got so many guys, and Lyle is actually an artist, but we have so many guys that are artistic and creative that running plays and having set pieces every time out would really be counterproductive to what we do. And I think the style of offense that we created, that we've kind of built on over the years with various teams I've been with, has been it really fits this group well, just because they're so much fun. And trust me, we enjoy watching them too. And every time you think you've seen it all, you see something new that Lyle does, or Randy, or Shane Jackson, Jordan Hall, Miles, you name it. We got so many great dynamic players. It's a great offense to be part of, and when we're hoping we continue to build and continue to get better as a group.
Awesome. All right, ABCs of offense.
Yeah. So this goes way back to the Toronto Rock days, and where Les Bartley, we kind of said with coaching, and I'm sure you do it, Jamie, and all the coaches you talk to, we always say you got to give something a name. You always want to put a name to something, and whether it's a play, whether it's a set, whether it's a spot on the field. And we kind of said back in the Rock days, we had spots on the floor we called left, right, and X. And that's how that was just to give us some positions. But we decided to change that, and we came up with A, B, and C. And ABC stands for always be cycling. And that's something for us that was really critical. We said, always be cycling is a term we use from, we borrowed from hockey. You hear hockey a lot of times on the boards. You talk about cycling the puck and being in constant movement. And we thought in lacrosse, and especially in box lacrosse, constant movement and we use the term cycling really benefits the offense and makes it hard to defend defensively. So I'll show on one of the other charts where A, B, and C are on the floor. But those are the three kind of spots we named. One of our other real principles for us, and what we use the term principles a lot, because we said we don't want to have rules, we want to have principles of our offense. So one of our principles is let's play hard. When you come off the bench, let's go hard through the middle. It just creates confusion. Playing with speed adds another element of decision making to the defense, which makes it much difficult and for them to defend. Ball swings sounds simple, but we've all seen teams and where the ball dies on one side of the floor, one side of the field, whether it be box or field. We really thought in this offense, ball swings are real critical because it makes the defense adjust, and it also makes the goalie adjust. So having the ball go from side to side, real critical part of any of our offense and why we think we're so successful. The other thing we talk a lot about is physical picks. Every team in the league, our team, every team talks about taking away topside. And no different in field lacrosse. You hear a lot, let's take away topside, force them down the alley, make them switch hands. Box lacrosse, it's even more important because of the size of the net. If you can make if defenders can get topside and force you down the alley, most guys aren't switching hands or bringing their stick across their body. that's a real win for the defense. So we kind of said for us, we really need to set physical picks so we can get ourselves topside. And I know, you talk, you spend a lot of time with our good friend Dave Huntley, and Hunts used to talk a lot about getting that stick to the middle of the field and what that creates and the opportunity. So for us, it's really important. And I say to the guys about turning the corner on a pick is when you're walking down the street and your view of the world is, whatever you see, when you turn the corner, your view of the world changes. And so we say, when you turn that corner, coming around a pick, your view of the floor changes. And what you see coming up around the pick might be different than when you turn the corner. And so it's real critical for us to set those physical picks so we can get topside, and then we turn the corner once we get around it. And off-ball movement, once again, sounds pretty simple. It's real effective, makes slides much harder for defenses. We talk a lot about teams in our league play, certain types of pressure defenses or defenses where every player is really watching the ball. We call those 10-eye defenses, where there's 10 eyes watching the ball. And when you have 10 eyes watching the ball, that means there's lots of eyes aren't watching guys on the backside. Everyone's focused on the ball and where the ball is. You see that a lot in field too, where there's so many multiple slides that everyone's got to react to the ball. That really improves opportunities for off-ball slides and backside looks. And you see our offense, and you'll see on the video clips a number of the backside looks that we get. And even if we don't find the backside looks, they create opportunities for other players. And Shane Jackson's a great example this year of a guy who's probably scored half his goals on backside looks and does a great job getting to down that spot.
I was just going to mention his name. What a master.
Yeah, he's having a great season and one of the hardest working guys, and one of those guys, as I said earlier, committed to just wanting to win, doesn't care. He had a long streak of 3 goals a game, and then he went a game without a goal, and he was, there was no issues about it. He was happy we won and just wants to contribute whatever way he can. And the last thing for us that's important is just transitional coverage, making sure that we're with our spacing with A, B, and C, that we're aware of the clock and we're able to get off, either get off the floor or shut down transition, one or the other. And that's real important. And it's real important when you have such talented offensive players that everyone understands what our responsibilities are, not just to try to score goals, but what our responsibilities are to get off the floor, to allow our defense to get out and really limit their effectiveness in transition. So this chart here, just real simple, just shows positions on the floor. So A is where typically right-handed players would play. C is typically in the corner. And oftentimes, A kind of creeps up a little bit. We like to start deep, but a lot of times we'll start kind of mid-boards. And B is a spot kind of up high. And if used kind of a hockey term, it would be high slot, or in Phi-Lacrosse, maybe like where the point would be on a power play way, or extra man offense way up high. So those are the 3 spots, and then we added an extra spot. We added X, with the ability in the box game to be able to dunk from behind the net. And we have so many guys that grew up playing field and played college lacrosse field. X was a real simple name for that. Everyone kind of understands what X means. So ABC is something that we've introduced. X is something that's been used for a lot of years in field, so it wasn't anything new to those players. But those are the real critical spots on the floor, and you'll see when we get to the video where we demonstrate it and how that really helps with spacing. And one of the key things with the B, the position of B up top, is that could be a righty or a lefty, and you'll see on the video where oftentimes we'll be strong right, and the third right will be at B, and we everyone always thinks about 2-man game and the off ball, the 3-man game, but we say you can have a 2-man game on the strong side by just having a guy from B going to his wrong side. So you'll see that a number of times. Lyle does it, Randy does it, really effective. And one of our major rules we have is no parking at B. We really, it's not a spot where you want to stand still. When you stand at B, your defender basically collapses into the middle, and is there to slide to, for any of the pick and rolls on the other side or the off-ball look. So we really use B as a spot to get to. It's almost like in basketball, you get up there. If the ball doesn't swing to you, you got to get out of there. You got to move, you got to cut, you got to pick, you got to do something. But standing up there is not conducive to this defense or this offense, because it just allows the defense to sag in and help. So yeah, no parking at B. We swing ball through B. What that does for us is we use B to get the ball to the other side of the floor. You'll see sometimes guys will swing the ball straight across. We try not to do that a whole lot. It's much faster to swing it right through the middle, but we call it like a pick six, right? There's lots of players in our league. We've got a guy on our team, Joel White, who's exceptional at that. Picks off those lazy passes through the middle, ends up in we call it a pick six, right? It's a touchdown going the other way. So we swing the ball through B. It also brings the defenses out, and as I said, it balances the floor, but it also creates, if you picture two righties on the weak side, and one of the righties goes up to B to catch the pass, and then he passes the ball down to A, that creates an ISO opportunity. You'll see that on the video with, we've got Zed Williams, big, strong man, who really good at doing that. And we also found, just by accident, that B on the floor is a great spot to cut from after a pass, because whenever the ball swings through B, and you see this in field, Jamie, every time you have a defender on you and you pass the ball, the defender immediately pivots his head to see where the ball went. And right. We found at B, oftentimes we pass the ball from B, the defender looks to where the ball is, he adjusts his feet, and we just cut from there. And amazing how often we can get open and get looks from there.
Do you ever notice that sometimes when you can throw a skip pass from B, that you even have a better chance, because the longer the ball's in flight, the better chance you have to get a step on your man while they're watching it?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things, you see some teams in the league that run a lot of set plays, and Calgary and Saskatchewan, they run a lot of that, where they carry the ball up to what we would call B, and they swing that ball down. And as they swing that ball down, like a skip pass right down to the corner, they have an off-ball look happening, and it creates so much confusion for the defense. And you're right, there's that more time for a guy to set that cut, and oftentimes that cut from B will start with what looks like an innocent-looking cut to his wrong side, or a cut to, say, the C side, and then just change direction and cut through the middle with some speed. So the skip pass is really effective, and we like the pass from B down to A or C. We try to avoid the passes across, directly across the middle, just because it's just high risk. And I say, it's one thing if you're throwing a pass, like Randy will throw a pass to Shane, and Shane's one time in the ball to the net. I mean, that's a great look, but just to get the ball to the other side, we think that's too much of a high risk thing to do against so many good defensive teams in our league. The other thing we talk a lot about, and you hear a lot of coaches talk about it, is really using multiple possessions. And you have a tired defense. One of the things that we look at is when a defense is tired, usually a couple things happen. You get a great scoring opportunity, or they take a penalty because of fatigue. And we like to say not many defenses practice 60 seconds of defense. They practice 30 seconds in practice, and then they sub out. So we like to do that. We practice 60 seconds of defense because we know at least a few times in the game we're going to get a situation where another team gets a multiple. But one of our rules is, I'm sure you hear it in field now with the shot clock. You got to reset. Hey, let's use the ball. Let's work the ball. Well, work the ball might mean different things to different people. So we say multiple possession, ABC. That way we know that the ball is going to touch those three spots, and then we can engage at that. And at least we get the defense moving, we get ourselves moving, and we try to take advantage of them being tired.
All right, to the video?
Yeah, we'll go to the video here. Show some of the clips.
Let's get that teed up. All right. So just roll it?
Yeah, just play, and then it'll pause on, I've got a number of clips here, and you'll see. So they're just on the floor to give you a sense of kind of what ABC looks like on the floor. And as we're coming onto the floor. So you already see it behind the banner up top. We've already got a guy at C here, a I think that's Miles. He's already coming down towards A with the ball, and that Zed Williams up top at B coming off the floor. You can see one of the key things we say is let's go through the middle with speed, and really critical all the time to do. Here's a great example. Different pick than what a lot of people see. It's a pick with a body, not with the stick. The picks with the body are really great because it makes it much harder for defenders to try to turn and grab your stick. And you see a great pick, great separation. They do an excellent job of recovering here. And you see Zeddy Williams just taking a step back, real effective, and firing around the screen. You do notice on the backside, we have a stick backside there for that look. And one of the things that when you see the replay of this, you'll notice Lyle Thompson coming in from the top. He's a righty. So there's a great example of Lyle, one of the best players in the game, recognizing that we've got a good two-man game going on. And he basically runs down the wrong side of the floor to give those guys space to operate. So really something that you see a great look of it there. There's Lyle on his wrong side down low. And, if he runs to his proper side there, he creates more traffic, and we probably don't get that look. So, we talk about the strong side and weak side, but like we said, we can always turn a strong side into a weak side just by someone clearing out, and you'll see a couple of them later in the game we're in the clips where guys do that as well.
This the seal, the way that Zed spins before he sets that pick is awesome stuff too. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I've got a good clip later, Jamie, of Randy.
Okay.
And by the way, Randy, I'm going to say it here. Randy Stotts is the first guy I've seen use the spin seal.
Yeah.
And now after a season in Six Nations, I see Dane Smith doing it. Lyle's doing it. So many guys, Cody Jamison's doing it. So really effective seal that guys use. And
so smart.
Very, very difficult to defend. Yeah, he's exceptional at it. Randy is.
Well, it makes sense because usually when you're trying to set picks, they're holding you, right? So
well, and that's what we say.
You can't be held as much.
If a guy's holding you and you seal, you spin him, then he's holding nothing, and you can really get a good angle on the guy for someone to turn the corner. So here's another one here. We're just once again coming off the change. We're trying to get through A, B, and C. And we're going right down through the middle. And you watch, this is a great clip here. You see three players, one guy going through the middle, three players collapse to that one player.
So you want to put it back, or are you good?
Yeah, no, we'll show it again here too. You'll see it again here too. So you see there's the three players that are just all eyeballing Zed going through the middle, and they leave Lyle, able to take kind of a step-in shot and fire it. And, a great example of what you get by going hard through the middle. If Zed runs to a spot like a lot of guys do, that doesn't get us anything. But you see there, those three players all committed to one non-ball carrier. And that's what going hard through the middle just creates that confusion that you're trying to do there. You're trying to make the defense make decisions because we know at some point they're going to make some mistakes, and that's going to create opportunities. But I like our chances with Lyle taking that type of a shot where he's going to be able to step in and shoot around the screen like that.
It's amazing how many screenshots you see in box lacrosse.
Yeah, I'll tell you, from my time in the NLL, it's really become much more of an art. The teams practice it to shoot those, practice those to get shot on. The defenses are so good now, and guys are so willing to block shots where, 20 years ago when we talked to guys about blocking shots, they were like, whoa, what do you mean? Like now I say that's the price of admission. You want to play defense in the NLL, you're blocking shots. Like, it's just going to happen. So here's a great example, just a little bit of a top pick.
I want to back up a little bit here.
Yeah, we run through, Randy gets a little bit of a pick, gets around the top, turns the corner, and then draws a little bit of a slide. We just basically slide through the middle, right, with and you see that's a 10 eyes there. If you go back a sec, you'll see all 10 guys watching the ball. Every single guy is watching the ball with Randy, and that creates that opportunity for guys to move off ball. So there's 10 eyes looking at the ball carrier. And, Shane cuts through the middle, creating space. And then Randy's able to, get that pass in. And Zach makes a great read, Zach Miller. and Jordan Hall with a pretty easy dunk behind the net. But you'll see it when you show it from behind the net. The view of it, it's really exceptional. The movement here and the spacing, and one of the key things you see on this too with Randy at the end of it is you see Randy after he makes the pass, he starts to head back for transition to defense, which is really what we ask our guys to make sure they do, so we can get our D guys off. And we always tell guys, you always err on the side of defense. If you're running back, you can always take steps forward. But if you take steps forward and the ball goes over your head, there's no returning from that. So you see how he engages the goalie there too, like Zach, and the goalie takes a step out, makes a great play. The shooter and the goalie are engaged on Zach Miller, and he finds Jordan behind the net at X.
Yeah, so nice.
And
One
there's
really
Randy going back.
different play too was that Randy faked that little behind the back pass, and it made the defense collapse. That opened up Zach that much more to be able to engage the goalie.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things when you're playing against teams, whether it's box or field. And I know from coaching field, we used to say, guys, way back in the day, Jamie, you'd appreciate this. We used to say, when you see their laces, that's when you cut, right? The back of the helmets used to be tied up. Now you say that kid's kind of laughing at you now, but we say you see the back of their helmet, you got to cut. And whether it's box or field, that's just so effective. And when they look back after they glance to see where their ball is and they don't see it, then they're in recovery mode. So it's really critical, and our guys do a great job of it.
So these clips are from this year?
Yeah, this year. This is a game against New York here. So once again, just like a little ABC here. We're trying to seal. Lyle's trying to seal for Randy. Don't really get a great look on it, but we had great movement off ball. You'll see on the replay here, like an off ball pick from Brian Cole that allows Shane Jackson to kind of get a stick free. And once again, there's Randy coming around the top. Great look. Good spacing by our guys, and just that off ball look that you get. The great thing about off ball is you don't need a lot of space, and you've got the goalie moving, right? The goalie's got to move right across the floor there, and never really got set. And Shane placed the ball exceptionally well, as you'll see on this shot here, like a great low shot, getting the goalie coming across.
Randy and Shane have such an amazing connection, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. They kind of, people look for each other, but Randy's just has such good vision. And
he does.
Even at the beginning of this year, Randy wasn't scoring early in the season, but he was leading the league in assists. Just such a great vision, and one of the best shooters I've ever coached. But certainly has great vision to see guys on the floor and make good decisions on passes.
For people that are interested, Randy Stotts has like a stick that throws so true. He doesn't have much pocket in that thing. It's almost like a girl stick. The thing just comes right out so quick.
And we say he's a great example of I'd say guys all the time, they're trying to shoot the ball really hard. It doesn't have to go through the mesh. It just has to hit the mesh. And
exactly.
I mean, he scores a lot of, he can throw with a lot of heat, but he scores a lot of goals at 60 miles an hour. Just well-played shots or deceptive shooter.
Totally.
So, here's another great example, right? There's Randy here. You see him coming down on his wrong side, going behind the net. And so you watch Randy there, right? He's basically coming around the top, going to his wrong side, going to X. But you see here on this swing across to Zach Miller, Brian Cole sets a great pick for Zach to get top side. And this is where we talk about turning the corner. If Zach doesn't turn the corner there, he doesn't engage that defender. If that defender doesn't engage, we don't have our pick and roll. So you see here where Zach turns the corner and that defender comes out, creates that separation for Brian to make a nice catch and catch and release right in tight. So really good goal, comes from a lot of great play. And as I said, this isn't stuff that we're necessarily scripting as we go on the floor. These are our guys following our principles, creating, looking for opportunities, and executing. And we've got a lot of guys that can do that.
How often do you guys look for the, a swing and then that righty hits Cole on the roll?
Yeah, we talk about that against some defenses. That's much more effective on defenses that play kind of pressure D. That's a more effective approach because because when you swing the ball, they have a reaction. But we talk about it, but it's such a timing thing to make that pass and then get it across. And it's, Saskatchewan's a team that's really good at that kind of that pass across, and then they hit the guy setting the pick, and their timing of it is so good that they're really good at it.
Beautiful. Nothing like a nice pick and roll, huh, Ed?
No, it's the bread and butter of our game, and it's so critical to be effective at it. And one of the things that we talk about is, setting a great pick is important, but using the pick is equally important. And that's something that you see teams set picks and players don't use it. But here's a great example of just Zed Williams, the beast of a man going to the net. And, one of the things we talk about is if you rewind that back just a few seconds, Jamie, you'll see the lines that I drew here. And, I've used this term in field lacrosse. I said, when you see a lot of green, green, it's like a stoplight. It means go. When you see green, you go. And when you got a guy like Zed with that much green, like he's going to go. And you see Miles up top in that smaller circle. He's kind of holding this guy out a little bit, waiting to see what happens. And then you see on the circle above that, you see we got an off-ball pick. So we've drawn their help out. We've got a guy down at C in the corner, which I think is Zach Miller. He's got his guy engaged. And that, that creates an opportunity for Zeddy. And with so many guys in our league, Curtis Dixon, Zeddy, Josh Byrne, when they have that much space from the mid-boards, they're going to go to the net. And it's very tough to defend. And goalies have a tough time making stops on those shots. It's so hard to defend.
I love the way he spins and he seals them with his off arm there.
Yeah, it's funny. That goes back to throw a name out from many years ago that when he played for us for one season with the Rock was Kevin Finneran. Kevin Finneran used to do that. We called it like an elbow lock, where he would just kind of lock his elbow around the guy, and I was like, wow, that's brilliant. So I started showing it to guys. I remember Dan Dawson coaching me.
Dawson all day, and
he does it all the time. And it's so difficult to defend. And in minor lacrosse, they'd probably call that a warding or a push off or however they call it. But in our game, they let that go, and guys are a lot of big, strong men being able to get underneath using that move.
Well, oftentimes it happens so subtly, in field they would definitely call it, but Zach Miller had one of the great all-time goals in the national championship semifinal. Remember that? On a spin move, just like that, split a double, and he totally hooked that guy. And the rep was standing right there, so they can't even see it half the time.
It can be pretty subtle, like you say. So, and here's another one. We get top side, nothing's there, right? And then we come back for a repick. And there's Randy, great shooter, just finding. We call those, I forget, you have a name for it. We call them seam shots, right? We just find the seam in the defense and you fire it through. And, you see there where he comes around. But I think Brendan Bomberry does a great job coming up, and his defender stays low. And you see that gap and with the screen, and Randy just fires it right through the seam. And, great placement, great shot.
That was a 65 mile an hour shot.
Yeah, well, that's what I say to kids all the time. Like, it doesn't have to go through the mesh, And I say to the really young kids, let's work on accuracy first, then velocity. And the problem is too many people focus on velocity before accuracy, and it just doesn't. It's not the right way to do it. Right? Be accurate, and then work on getting faster.
The other thing that Randy's doing that so many of your guys do is they get into this posture that is selling going underneath, right? And then you come topside, and then it's like, all right, I might shoot it. And then he goes back to his sort of dodging posture while he's just operating, So cool to watch.
Yeah, no, I know. When they have that stick in that spot, they can do so much from that, and they're so good at being able to, as you say, the defender really isn't sure whether they're going to go one-on-one, if they're going to shoot, if they're going to pass from there. And again, we got a lot of guys that are real good at that, and it just keeps defenses on their toes. And we use, one of the terms we use is when you come around a pick and when you turn the corners, we say we want to load. Like, put yourself in a position that looks like you're going to be shooting when you come around that pick, because it does draw the goalies out. And it draws defenders. You don't have to shoot, but if you just load your stick like you're going to shoot, and then you can, then you can drop it back down if you're going to protect or do whatever. But really, really important to do that, because you see goalies, so many goalies are out far in our league, some to the top of the crease, that if you load, that draws them out. And now when you have that backside look, you're plopping the ball into an empty net.
It's just interesting, the different postures, so this Brian Cole back in the same sort of dodging posture, and this posture backs people off and sticks go down, actually, because they're getting bracing for your attack.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of the load, right?
Yeah, exactly. When you're loading, you got sticks up in the air. When you're down low, they're making a cross check. So you can see on that one, right? Great job by Colsey drawing, and all three guys engaged. You see all three Calgary guys here are all engaged on the swing up to B. We swing it over. Lyle sets a seal, and doesn't even really get a great piece of him, but enough to create a gap. And you can see that defender, the low defender on Zed Williams, is expecting a switch, but Lyle is kind of pushing his guy out of the way, and the guy can't get out, and we create that separation. And gap for defense, gap is death. And we say you can't, if you give up gap on defense, you're in trouble. And for offense, we fight hard to gain gap. And that's really, that's the battle within the battle. It's about the gap and the space that you can create for yourself or create for a teammate.
I think Lyle didn't seal him much, but I think he might have just subtly held him a little bit.
Yeah, probably just wrapped his. Yeah, you see guys sometimes they'll elbow lock on the stick and
no doubt
do different things to try to get a little bit of a.
It looks like he stuck his hand right in between his cross cheek.
Yeah, and you see guys do that a lot, where they kind of, and then they lock that guy's stick up, and you see it with defenders too. When guys come to set picks, defenders will often try to put their stick inside and to tie you up. So it's. What's good for the goose, right? Right.
That's
Jamie?
right.
They're doing it to us, so we're going to do it to them.
Yeah. I've seen Lyle actually do that, where while he had the ball in a field game going lefty, he stuck his right hand right in between the guy's stick and his body, and the guy's like, "What do I do now?" Because you're kind of holding him, but you're not really, and so.
Yeah, he does a lot. He does a lot of things that we say, "Wow, I've never seen that before."
I mean, it's just it's like every day, right? I mean,
no, he's pretty special player too. I say I've been pretty privileged in this league to get to coach a lot of, unbelievable players, and he ranks right up there with all of them.
Yeah, so cool. I'm such a huge fan of all these guys. I didn't even realize Zach Miller was on your team. I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite players to watch. That guy is.
Yeah, Zach was. We actually got him in a trade at the beginning of the season, and really, I think it turned out to be a great deal for us. And when we had an injury earlier in the year, Brian Cole, and we put Zach in, and averaging a goal or so a game, doing a great job. So this one here, this was on a reset. So if you rewind it back, great shot by Miles there. But if you go back to the start of it, you'll see the clock up top where I circle it. We're at a reset. So we got a reset. We want to go ABC. So we swing the ball over, and great job here, Randy coming off the bench. This was the spin seal one here. When you watch the replay of it, you'll see how the guy goes to engage him. He spins around him and basically pushes him out of the way. And then watch it when you get to the top here, how he then bumps the other guy. And that's the next level of that, where you seal your guy, but then, and I know you guys called it way back in the day a bee sting, and whether you bee sting the guy or you bump the guy with your stick, and, so you're basically tying up two players. So you see here where he has the one guy, steps into the other guy and creates that separation for Miles to get a great, just a great shot. And once again, great finish around a little bit of a screen. But you see Randy there, he's got his guy tied up. And then that Zach Courier tries to get out, and Randy bumps him so he can't get to Miles. So it's, again, real subtle that you don't really see, but something that so effective and just makes those little things in a game effective to create those opportunities.
That spin seal is so sick, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool. When he first started doing it, he was doing it in practice, and guys were saying to us, "What do I do?" I said, "I don't know what you do, man. We're trying to figure that out ourselves." It's tough. He's just so good at it. So So here's an example of just simple off-ball cut. Once again, I think this was off kind of a reset. So we pick the ball up, we go from C to B, right down to A, and you look at that Shane Jackson up top in the circle. He set a little bit of an off-ball pick, cuts the middle, great feed from Randy. Randy, we call it, that's sometimes we get the ball down there. We call it shopping, right? Let's get the ball. Let's just shop, see what we get out of it before we engage into a pick and roll, before we go one-on-one. Let's shop, because much easier to score off ball and get opportunities off ball than it is to battle through a pick and roll or try to beat a guy one-on-one. And you see Shane obviously with a great inside catch and inside finish, like unbelievable.
I feel like Lyle's presence helped Shane get open too.
Well, yeah, he cuts, and Lyle's one of those players, like a lot of players that have his status. They draw a lot of attention, and we used to say that about players would say, "What do I do if they're giving me a lot of attention?" I said, "Well, Wayne Gretzky used to, when teams would shadow him, he used to go stand by another guy, so he'd have two defenders on him, right?" And I say, think about that, right? And we tell guys all the time, if a guy's picked you up, if you're coming off the bench and a guy picks you up, immediately run to another defender. Make them make a decision, as opposed to just running with that guy. Make them make a decision. And Lyle's also a guy that, most teams, when they're guarding Lyle, that's their assignment, and they're not interested in switching. They even if a pick comes, they're thinking, this is my guy. So it's a really good opportunity to not just for him to be effective, but to really decoy as well. So. Yeah, you watch Shane here on this pick, right? He just finds a little bit of a back, a little bit of a push. And once again, great in and out of the stick, right? Time of possession is a fraction of a second. And that's in the inside game. That's how the ball's got to get in and out of your stick that quickly. And he's great at doing that. That's for sure.
I think I tried to go to the next clip, but.
Yeah, that might be the last one, Jamie. I think that's.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Shane Jackson is one of the most underrated, incredible players. I mean, man, the guy. I mean, maybe he's not underrated by you guys, but I kind of feel like not many people know how good that guy is. I mean, oh my God, just so smart.
I think he was really underrated, but I think the last kind of year or so has really elevated his game. What he did in the field game really opened people up to it. I mean, he's been great for us in Georgia for the last number of years, and then being selected with Team Canada, and every one of those coaches they loved Shane Jackson. He just works so hard and plays so hard, and not a guy blessed with huge size or anything, speed or anything else, but just really works hard. And we're real happy for him. He deserves the accolades that he gets, because he's, we see how hard he works and how hard he plays, and never takes a shift off, whether it's a game or a practice. He goes as hard in a practice as he does in a game, and you really see what he's done, and it's great for us to see that.
Where did he grow up?
He's actually from just outside of Whitby in I think it's Cordis, or like near Bowmanville. And he didn't start playing lacrosse, I think, till Bantam. So like 13, 14. Yeah. So whenever I've done the school clinics and that, we always we did a clinic the one year with a group of hockey kids that go to a sports school that for hockey around here, and I asked the kids in the class. I said, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. I said, I want you to tell me how many guys in the NHL started playing hockey when they were 15 or 16, and they all looked at me, and I said, you don't have to give me the answer. The answer is 0. I said, but I can tell you, we have guys in the NLL, there's guys playing college lacrosse that didn't start playing lacrosse till they were 14, 15, 16, and it's such an athlete's game, and it's great to see the growth of it, especially in the U.S., and the growth of kids playing box lacrosse right now, and we see it as a great game, and we really see, there's box and field, but what you learn in box is going to help you in field, and what you learn in field is going to help you in box, and you know that, and I know that's the message out there with a lot of the leagues that are teaching box lacrosse in the U.S. and the other thing is kids like it. It's fun, And I think that's such a huge thing. And number one reason kids stop participating in sports is because it's fun. And we want to make sure that box lacrosse is a lot of fun, and kids seem to enjoy it.
Totally. Steinhaus he started pretty late too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was a midget.
Yeah.
I had heard, and there was a guy out west, Jeff Molesky, who used to play big D guy. He used to play out in Vancouver and Calgary. He didn't start playing. He played intermediate lacrosse in Prince George, which isn't exactly a lacrosse mecca, but he started out there. But big, strong guy, and ended up 17 years old, starting to play lacrosse. Ends up in the NLL by the time he's 25. So there's those opportunities for kids, and again, it's something that you can, everyone, most athletes can do some degree of running. Your eye-hand coordination, and it's certainly a great sport. And box lacrosse is, as I said, it's a lot of fun, and I think so many kids and so many college coaches. You hear the college coaches now talk about, wanting to have kids play box lacrosse and the growth of these box leagues, and I think it's really gonna help those kids in their field game, and certainly, from a selfish NLL perspective, it's going to help us because we're going to draft kids that are going to, we're not going to have to teach what a pick and roll is, or, I have coached kids in this league, kids that were drafted out of college, never played box lacrosse, and the first practice we had was the first time they were ever in an arena. So it's exciting for us to see the growth of box lacrosse in the U.S. and the excitement that it's going to bring.
All right, we got a couple questions here. Tips for generating offense on your wrong side, with or without the ball. I think the reason why is they don't have enough lefties.
Yeah, that's a big factor. I know that in the U.S. I think for us, we talk a lot about when you get through the middle, and much like basketball, when you go through the middle to get out of the middle, and whether you're on your right side or wrong side, going out to set a pick for someone is a great opportunity. So you picture, in the U.S., you're going to have a lot of righties. Maybe you have one lefty out there, and a righty goes down, cuts through the middle from like where B, and then V cuts out or L cuts out to pick the one lefty and sets a pick for him off ball. So that's something that we see. As I said earlier, just because guys are on their wrong side doesn't mean that they can't be effective. They can set picks. We find too that the real gifted goal scorers, obviously the percentages increase when you're on your proper side, but the gifted goal scorers find a way to make it to get those opportunities.
Yeah.
And when you pick, even if you're a righty picking a lefty, and the lefty goes around, doesn't get the ball, when you cut back to the middle as the second option, now you're catching the ball in the middle. And even though you're on your wrong side, you're running to the middle of the floor. And that really, makes it much easier to get a better shot, higher percentage shot off.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you think the spin seals would be legal in women's lacrosse? And for that matter, in field lacrosse in general, it's like a little harder to be as aggressive, but I think the answer is probably you just can't like mow the person over. But I mean, what happens though too is like the way Randy does it, like he's spitting on you and he kind of uses his elbow to hook you a little bit, and all of a sudden you're on the wrong side and you thought you were in good position, and then all of a sudden you're like on the wrong side of this thing,
Yeah, and I think in whether it's field, whether it's women's lacrosse, it's setting a seal or a pick. It's all about establishing position, and as the rules read, everyone has equal rights to that position on the field. So if you're running out and that player goes to engage you and you spin around and you set yourself up in that spot, then there shouldn't be any issues on that. And watching women's lacrosse now at college, and I mean it's much more physical than it used to be many years ago. There's a lot more cross-checking and bumping. So I think a little bit of bumping is probably not going to get called. I think if you're, as you say, you're mowing people down or jacking people in the kidneys, that might be a little different. But I think just spinning and creating that position where that player, now you've established that ownership of that piece of grass or piece of turf, they have to run around you. I think it'd be very effective.
Yeah, for sure. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. It was just incredible to look at those highlights. I love watching your team play, and I'm so pumped to be able to talk lacrosse with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jamie, and hopefully we all get back to playing lacrosse real soon.
Hopefully, and if I'm up in Noddle for the summer, I'll definitely give you a ring. We got to get together and talk lacrosse in person.
Awesome. Love to do it.
All right. Thanks, Eddie.
Okay, we'll see you, Jamie. Thank you.
Take care.